Hello, folks. Welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. So we've seen an initial round of preliminary interviews for South Africans interested in the US Refugee Resettlement Program based on the executive order that President Trump signed on the 7th of February, 2025. A lot of people have been patiently waiting and many impatiently waiting for updates on that. Now, let me be very clear about this Refugee Resettlement Program. I don't work for the U.S. government. I'm a retired Army colonel, but I don't work for the U.S. government, and I do not endorse or deny what they're doing. This is simply information made available for people because of the propaganda that's being spread across the board by mainstream media, by a number of actors in South Africa. There is a need for factual information and for honest reporting. That's what we're doing here. So let me address the situation. I have had sources who have been interviewed at the American Embassy, and they shared with me their experiences when I interviewed them. How did it go? What sort of questions were asked? What was it about? What did they share with you? As a consequence of that, I had one person who shared their first interview experiences and then was called back for a second preliminary interview. Now, this wasn't to grant refugee status or to resettle to the States. It's simply part of a fact-finding mission. The Department of State PRM Bureau went to South Africa and interviewed people, some on a second occasion, to do a fact-finding mission to find out the interest and what sort of experiences people had that would justify them participating in this program. As a consequence of the second interview, we had a very detailed list of questions asked, which was much more extensive than the first one for this individual. One of my moderators watched my video in which I related the questions asked and created a questionnaire. It's an informal questionnaire, and we're going to make it available to people, not because we're endorsing you leaving South Africa. I'm agnostic towards that. That's your personal decision. But because there is a need for honesty and reporting, and that's what we're doing here. So, the following is a disclaimer that I've put on the document. Disclaimer. The following document is a courtesy offering compiled by one of my moderators to assist folks who may be interested in the U.S. Refugee Resettlement offer. Neither my moderator or I work for, nor are we affiliated in any way with the U.S. government. The purpose of these crib sheets is to assist you in compiling, for your own use, data which an interviewer is likely to ask you when you sit down for a refugee resettlement interview to relocate to the United States. This list may not be all-inclusive of all the things you may be asked. Remember that the interviewer has responsibility to ensure that only qualified applicants who present no threat to Americans are allowed to enter the United States through the Refugee Resettlement Program. We make no promises nor suggest the form helps you with your application. The line of questioning is one shared by a source who went for a second preliminary interview during the Department of State's March 2025 fact-finding mission to South Africa. So that's what this is all about. And with that in mind, we will share this as an Adobe Acrobat format, so you can print it out and do what you want with it. But there's a disclaimer right at the top of it right there, and then your information here. This is for your own personal use. This is not something that the government has endorsed. It's not something, you might not be asked some of these questions, but the odds are you're going to be asked all these questions and probably even more. Piece of advice I offer to everyone being interviewed: be truthful. An act of omission is a lie. If you're asked about something and you dance around and you're not truthful, that may come back to bite you later on. The United States conducts the most extensive background checks on potential refugees. Those who apply for refugee status to come to America get very extensive background checks, including social media, your employment history, your affiliations with organizations, and some people are taken aback by that. Well, we are offering to let you come to our country with a golden ticket. Far easier than immigrating here, far easier than being here legally and then declaring asylum. To get here, you have to pass a rigorous background check, and that's only reasonable. Why should we let people in the country who are a danger to America? That's the purpose for this. So the checklist that we're providing to you is not a formal checklist. It's not from the embassy. It's not a government document. It's just a common sense list of things that we're asked to interview that we present in fashion so you can write down the information just to get yourself thinking if you're going to do an interview. That's all it is. There are no promises here, and so I don't want to hear anybody come back and say, oh, we were told we could use this form. No, you weren't told anything. It's just a courtesy. A lot of people don't really understand how the process works. They don't understand what being a refugee is. And it's complicated by the fact that South Africans are not refugees, not legally. Just like what's happening in Gaza does not meet the legal definition of a genocide, people in South Africa do not meet the legal definition of a refugee. You're not even internally displaced persons, IDPs. You're being offered refugee status based on a group category declared by the President of the United States in his executive order on the 7th of February, 2025. This is allowable under the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1980. The President or the State Department can make such determination for the Rohingya in Myanmar, the Uyghurs in China, or Cubans in Cuba, and in this case, Afrikaners yet to be defined who qualifies as an Afrikaner, but Afrikaners in South Africa. That's all this is. All right? So if you want to use the form, you're welcome to use it. If you don't like the form, fine, don't use it. Don't rubbish the fact that my moderator spent a great deal of time preparing this, and I put this disclaimer in and taken the time to make this recording to share with you what it is. It's for your use, and hopefully you find it helpful. And if people ask you where you got it from, tell them the Colonel gave it to you. If they don't like it, say you found it lying next to the door. All right, folks, there you have it. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. God bless. Cheers.